17 years ago, I entered a large yard in a remote Bulgarian village. The yard was covered in snow, and there was a woman walking towards me, coming to greet me. And the first thing I noticed about this woman is that she was barefoot in the snow, and her legs were blue from the cold. And the second thing I noticed is that she was carrying 2 chunks of snow in her hands, and she was eating them. And I thought, this is crazy. The reality was that I was entering an institution for people with intellectual and mental health disabilities. But this woman was not eating the snow because she was crazy. This institution didn't have water for the past 2 weeks, and she was eating the snow because she was drinking. This is, as I said, 17 years ago, this is when I decided, as an investigative journalist, to dedicate my time to expose human rights abuses in this field, but in many other fields. I worked on corruption, I worked on many aspects of human rights, but this topic, the situation of people with intellectual and mental health disabilities, remained one of my focuses for many, many years. This is just one example. This is what I would see in any institution that I would go into. For example, the lady that is on your left, she has just been thrown chunks of bread over a fence, and she's eating it. And if you see the spots on her blouse, these are flies. And the girl over there at your right, she's dipping her bread pieces in a puddle outside of the outside toilets because the bread is so dry and so old that otherwise she can't eat it. But I went to many institutions in many countries. I was working undercover, and I would then later report on human rights abuses and inhuman and degrading treatment. But I realized that as a journalist, I had more than a goal to report, to reflect, to hold a mirror. No. My goal was to close down these places. But the truth is that even though I went into so many places, I was able to close down just one. And this led to an immense frustration. I was getting pats on the back, I was getting awards, none of this mattered. What mattered is that I was ineffective to my own standards. So what I did was that I decided to abandon journalism and to move to human rights activism. I thought going into human rights activism, I would have additional tools, additional techniques, and I would be able to be more effective. And then I was invited to establish the Campaigns and Communications program in the largest human rights NGO in Bulgaria, called the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee. But very quickly I saw that what I was imagining is not the reality. Campaigning was still being done in these really old-fashioned ways. There would be a monitoring report, a press conference, an interview, but not really effective or innovative techniques. So I wanted to see what I can do in order to achieve my goals, and I started experimenting. And at a certain point, one of my experiments was to go to an artist. We were then having a huge investigation of the situation of all 25 institutions for children with intellectual disabilities in Bulgaria. And we found out that for 10 years, 238 children have died in these places. 2/3 of these death cases were avoidable. So what I did was I went to this artist and I just gave her the facts, and I told her what kind of an emotional response I'm going for. I didn't tell her what to do because I've done this in the past and it's not the best result. I just gave her facts, go, that's it. And I gave her 2 weeks. And then she came to me with this. So we put this image on 12,000 cards. These free cards that you can find in cafeteria and cinemas and so on and so forth. We printed the address of the Council of Ministers at the back, and then we left space for people to write their personal message, and all they had to do is put a stamp and mail it. Thousands of these cards were sent. How this thing worked was that from afar, it looks like a very cute children's drawing, but as you can see from, you go and see, well, you want it, right? Like it's positive, it's sunny, you go and take it, and then you see that actually the tulips represent the causes of death, and you can see how many children died from hunger and from neglect, from cold. And the rays of the sun stand for the months of the year, and you can clearly see that most children died during the winter. And this image fueled a much larger campaign that a couple of years later, 3 years ago, resulted in the closure of all 25 institutions for children with disabilities in Bulgaria. And this is an example of what art can do. Since this first collaboration with an artist, I did many more in my capacity as the campaigns director of the Helsinki Committee. I was seeing again and again and again that art triggers empathy, empathy triggers action, and this leads to change. And I wanted to translate this personal experience into a global organization that would help other activists like me worldwide. And this is when I founded Fine Acts. This is our launch, actually. This is the main TED event in 2014. But before I tell you what we do, I just want to look briefly at the context and at the issues that we're solving. So this is the context. There is a huge global crackdown on civic space, demonization of human rights defenders. We have the rise of the far right, the huge post-truth reality we're all living in, and all these requires an urgent change in tactics. But at the same time, we have lack of capacity in human rights organizations. We have organizations that are doing campaigning using tools that are from the past, and they are not effective. And we have messages that cannot cut through the noise or reach past the lack of sensitivity in society. Numerous studies confirm that this is what civil society organizations, most of them, are. They're unprepared currently, understaffed, underskilled. They're burned out. They're plagued by generational stagnation and a resistance to innovation. I spent the last 2 months working with HIVOS on a report on, let's say, aesthetic warfare, and I was talking to organizations from around the world, and every single one I met was at least half of these things at the point of the interview. And at the same time, there is scientific evidence of what we can do to make people care. And these are, if you want resources, come and talk to me afterwards, but these are the sum of many papers that talk about making people care from behavioral, cognitive, neuroscience, and what can we do to implement in our campaigns so that we make people support us, come with us, and work with us to reach our goals. I keep turning because my eyes are not that good and I can't see the screen, so sorry. So first of all, strong opinions change not through more information, but through empathy-inducing experiences. Art can trigger empathy. Storytelling is king and personal stories work. Visual language works far better than dry facts and abstract concepts. And something really, really important, and you'll see this later. that provoking an emotional response should be done really carefully. Because if you just provoke feelings of sadness or guilt or fear into your audience, they would simply shut down and they would turn away, and this would be it. And once again, campaigns that inspire hope or bring awe are most effective. Again, back to Fine Acts and what we do. We are a global platform for socially engaged creative solutions that works across issues and borders. We have different types of activities. Currently, we're running 17 projects, so they're very different from each other. But more generally, we produce art with purpose. We design creative campaigns for specific nonprofits around the world. We train organizations in creative use of art and technology. And last but not least, we design innovative formats that are amplifying and supporting activism. And just several examples of our work. So this is our very, very first project. It's called The Future. It is a project that sheds light on armed conflict around the world. We showed this at that conference when we launched in 2014. You see a sign that has 206 light bulbs. Each light bulb represents a sovereign state. And here you can see this. And you see the word future that is spelled out. And out of all these 206 light bulbs, initially only 33 were lit. And this is based on many reports that are looking at how many organizations are at an absolute state of peace. So this was a really powerful infographic that we actually used for showcasing the global situation on many other issues like the death penalty, marriage equality. This work traveled the world since 2014, and actually it spent the past 6 months in one of the largest cathedrals in the world, St. John the Divine in New York. This previous picture you saw was from there. And we had a lot of conversations around this. We showed these works on death penalty and marriage equality in Texas. This was super interesting. But this is how we started. We started with art pieces that are communicating human rights issues. This is our second project. This is called Postcards from Ferguson. We worked with a really amazing photographer, John Lowenstein, who was sent by Time magazine to Ferguson when the events were happening there. John took amazing photos, and then we turned them into this project that turns the "wish you were here" concept on its head. And people were sending these to their family members, their friends, their representatives. This project went into some US schools, and this is my favorite card. It is by Tyrone, a student in a New York City school, and it is to Santa. It's addressed to Santa, and it says, "Dear Santa, I want a pony and a riot shield." Then we started turning away a little bit. We still do art pieces, but they're not such a huge focus of our work. This is an example of a creative campaign that we did together with the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee. In this case, so we're here spotlighting the fact that in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, there is not a single monument of a woman, historical woman, not a single one. There are, of course, women's bodies, the figure of a mother, but not a single one representing actual, achievements, accomplishments of a woman. And there's so many great women in Bulgarian history. So we collaborated with an artist called Erka, and we, on a very early March morning in 2017, we placed a number of, these sculptures around Sofia in the main Sofia attractions. And this is how the action looked like. And this really made people aware. Like no one was really paying attention to this. Yes, you wouldn't see like monuments of women on your walk to work, but there must be some, right? And then we showed, the data that we got from the Sofia municipality confirming that not a single monument, and also only 6% of the all memorial objects in Sofia like commemorative plaques or stuff like that, are dedicated to women. So again, huge media interest, huge public awareness, people, like thousands of people signing a petition to Sofia municipality against this practice. Again, another vote that we organized where people voted which woman should get the first monument, and it was a Bulgarian writer. So yeah, this was pretty cool. Another campaign that we did, still, let's focus on Bulgaria for a little while. This is around the fact that so many women are murdered in Bulgaria every year, and at the same time, there was a complete resistance of ratifying the Istanbul Convention against violence against women. And what we did was that just the night before a super important debate in the parliament, we went and we projected 23 names of women who were murdered by their partners, and it was called 23 Reasons. And it was 23 because the debate was on the 23rd of February, let's say. But we didn't manage, to turn the vote, and the Istanbul Convention is still not ratified in Bulgaria. But what we were able to do with this image is that the debate was going in a completely different direction, and we managed to refocus it. So now, when someone is working, a media publication, be it like online media or TV, doesn't matter. They would use this image when they talk to regarding the Istanbul Convention, and this is a big win because you are able to refocus the debate. All that we do stems from our concept of Playtivism. This is a term that we coined, and it stays for creating spaces for multidisciplinary play and experimentation in Playtivism. So why play? So play is something that scientists again agree that nothing lights up the brain like play, and that the opposite of play is not work, it's depression. And play can prevent the high levels of, there are super high levels of burnout in activism, burnout and depression, and play can prevent this. Multidisciplinary play, meaning the play that is at the intersection of various disciplines, is proved to spark much better ideas. When we play, others want to join. This is because you're doing something fun, right? And play can bring this really important feeling that we got this, which is, very often lacking now. So now we're calling ourselves a global playground for social change. And what we do is let's say this is our event format called Labs, where we pair artists and technologists to work on collaborative projects. Amazing projects are emerging out of this, like Beat. This is a project that is conceptualized by a drummer and a programmer, where we put these drums into a building just underneath the flat of a woman who has been murdered the previous year. She was beaten for 15 minutes, and then her neighbors didn't do anything about this. But we rented the apartment underneath her, we placed these drums, and at 10 p.m. We started beating them, and we wanted to compare the fact that for 15 minutes no one rang the bell or called the police, and we wanted to see what would happen if we start raising this domestic voice. The answer is 1 minute and 52 seconds before someone came. I'm just going to some other concepts that are coming out of this format. Labs I told you about is a campaign that teaches about fake news with beautiful but horribly tasting cupcakes. You can look it up. It's called Fakery. Another one is a board game that we're currently building. It's called Dictators, and it puts players in the shoes of a dictator to teach them about the tactics of oppression. I'm going to skip this one, and I want to talk about sprints because this is the project that we're collaborating with the Friedrich-Naumann Foundation. I'm eternally grateful for your support. And what we do with sprints is that here you can see the process. We brief the participants, then they have 48 hours to come up with a ready work, and on a Sunday, they present all these works, and then they go to pop-up exhibitions, but then they are also used for marches and protests. The biggest part about this idea is that we put all these works at a dedicated online platform, which is free and open for anyone to use or adapt non-commercially. We put not just the print files, but also the work files, so that organizations can take the images, they can put their own slogan, they can put their logo and make them theirs. And the problem that we're solving is that visual content is really effective, but very often organizations don't have the skills or the capacity to commission it. So these are just some examples of works that were created during sprints. These are the first ones are for women's rights, LGBT rights, freedom of expression. And these have been widely used. This is like a lettering toolkit with 40 different, let's say like messages, thank you, that you can take and put on your posters, on sticker packs, whatever you want to do with them. Everything is free and open. And I'm not going to, so this is theamo.org, is the website where you can find all these. Act Labs is the website where if you want to do your own event bridging art and tech, you can do it for free here. You can learn, here how to do it. We help you. It's again free and open. I just wanted to make a full circle. I started with people with disabilities. This is our latest campaign that is again on people with disabilities. This is how we portray them as heroes, not victims. And this again, like most of what we do in our campaigning is again open. Organizations around the world working on disabilities, especially guardianship, they can use whatever we produced in their own campaigns. And I think, and this is my hope for the world, that more organizations would work openly and would be willing to share what they do with others. This is a world that I want to, live in, and this is a world that I want to help build. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yana.